We're going to begin an AI session, something many of us probably first time hearing about AI. Now it's going to be everywhere and everything. I am Bryan Zaczek. I'm the principal data scientist at MPH. I oversee our data science team. I help with AI strategy. I help with a whole host and range of issues across the state. And I'm joined with Dr. Zaczek Horton. I somehow swindled him away from FinTech, got him to move halfway across the country and join our team here. I call him the brain because he is a genius. Zach, anything else to add?
Bryan is very extensive in his description of me, which I appreciate. We're excited to be here.
Good. We're going to try to make this not boring. We're going to make it a little interactive. We have rules up front, things we're going to try to do. Questions, we're going to try to hold them at the end. I'm going to try to leave some time. We'll see where this goes. All right. What we're going to kind of get into today, the subject, practical implementation of AI. So I think Pete kind of laid out some of the early discussion with Lisa, AI kind of in everything, AI in every single piece. How about real quick in the audience, who is ChatGPT fans? Raise your hand. Where's our Gemini fans? All right. Where is our Anthropic fans? Okay, all right, everybody kind of picks what they're familiar with, picks what they like to use. What we're going to talk about today is really AI as a tool. It's going to be another tool in the toolbox. It's going to be another thing to help. Really, the mindset of how do you implement AI in a practical way is the whole goal of our talk today. Good. Will AI take all of our jobs? No, but it will heavily augment. AI in the future is going to literally pick up the world, shake it, and then put it back. We're going to see a resettling of jobs, job roles, a whole range of different things. What does it do? It creates all sorts of new opportunities for you, not only to learn, not only to think about your problems, to solve difficult challenges maybe you couldn't solve before, to do things more efficiently, more effectively. Even your adoption of these tools making you a much more efficient, faster learner, faster coder, faster everything. Good. You are where you are. So a lot of times I hear people say, I feel behind. I see all this stuff in the news. I read the articles. I see, private sector doing this. I see this company coming out, this new tool, this new thing. Just feel comfortable with where you are right now with AI in your own journey. Okay? Don't feel bad. There's a lot of people that get fear and anxiety when you get into AI because you go, well, what's going to happen? There's a big unknown. We talked about a little bit of that this morning. There's a lot of people that get optimistic and excited. It's okay if you're in the middle. It's okay if you're on one end or the other. My recommendation is if you're on that fear and anxiety side today, go home and spend 100 hours and learn about AI. Download every single app on your personal phone with AI. Learn how it works. Learn what it's good at. Learn what it's bad at. And that's going to quickly evolve continuously over time. What we see today is going to be completely different tomorrow. What we see tomorrow and the next day, nobody can even imagine where we're going to be 5 years from now. Just realize that. AI is just beginning. So even though this whole journey that we've been on with what we're adopting and everything else, this is like advent of the internet again. This is like, hey, I have this idea for this internet that's going to connect all of our devices. We're going to have phones. We're going to have things that are going to communicate. We're going to do all these different things. This is where we are with AI at the very infancy of how it's going to change everything. Okay? The current era of AI, the way I like to describe it, somebody described it like this the other day. It can build, but it doesn't know what to build. I remember a year ago doing coding. It was pseudocode. It looked like code. It wouldn't run. It kind of looked, it had all sorts of bugs, everything else. We're past that. Claude, Anthropic, Gemini, it can create code now. It can create code that runs. It can create code that you can have a conversation with to update and to change. It can build, but it doesn't know what to build, and it doesn't know how you want it built. Dr. Horton's going to go through a session on how do you communicate, how do you use this as a tool to build what you need? What's the mindset you need? Good. What we're going to talk about, AI core concepts, practical applications and prompt building, the AI mindset, and current building blocks in AI. What we're not going to cover today, individual AI platforms, IoT services, AI buttonology, state AI assessments and government procedures, AI security, rules, risks. This is a practical guide to help you navigate AI in your journey. AI has grown up. I always hate the cheesiness of like, hey, go back in history, but this is my history. Clippy. Clippy never offered a single good suggestion. It would always pop up and ruin your homework. It would all of a sudden crash Word. It would do all sorts of stuff that was never helpful. I grew up watching the Jetsons, always imagining we'd get to the stage of flying cars, the robots walking around and helping us, living in a seamless, huge, a massive environment. And what we finally got was Watson. Watson was amazing to many of us because it goes, wow, this Jeopardy game that we watched was so difficult for all of us to see and understand, but all of a sudden a computer could instantly answer. So, where we are today, LLMs. Everybody in the room should be familiar, right? Large digital brain, just for level setting. The way I like to describe it, it's like a person that walked in every single library in the entire state, in every single state in the entire United States, and picked up every single book and read it. And it conceptualized all of that information. And now all of a sudden you have a superpower to be able to talk to it and to be able to help solve your answers in a meaningful and helpful way. To kick us off, something kind of fun, I'm going to hand it over to Zach, and we're going to talk a little bit about zebra puzzles.
Yeah, thanks, Bryan. Let's talk a little bit about the capabilities in a broad sense of what AI can do as far as intelligence. So we're going to start this in a minute. I'm going to give you a minute to solve this problem, and I'll read it along with you. This is something called a zebra puzzle. There are 5 houses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5 people, Alice, Bob, Arnold, Peter, and Eric. Each one plays a unique sport, one of tennis, baseball, soccer, basketball, and swimming. The question I pose to you, and do not please use your devices to solve this, who lives in houses 4 and 5, and what sports do they play? Some clues to help you on your journey. The person who plays tennis is not in the 5th house. The person who swims and Alice are not next to each other. The person who swims is directly left of the person who plays tennis. Eric plays soccer and is in the 1st house. Arnold's in the 2nd house. Peter plays baseball. Alice is not in the 3rd house. We've got approximately 30 seconds left on the timer. If anybody can get this right, you will earn some sweet high fives from me and Bryan.
Statistically, we should have at least one person in the audience able to solve this. Raise your hand if you solve it.
Don't feel bad. We couldn't do it either. It was a trick question. If you ask AI to solve this problem, this is an example of the output that you might receive. Now, we're not going to walk through each step of this, right? This is extensive, and the point of this talk is not to talk about zebra puzzles. It's to talk about how you can capitalize on the functionality of AI. However, there are some important things to recognize about this output that are important to understanding how AI works. And that is, it produced a ton of it. It walks through its logic in excruciating detail and finally arrives at the correct answer. And if you're curious, it's Alice, who plays tennis in house 4, and Peter in house 5, who plays baseball. Not that that's any relevant anymore. You didn't earn your high fives. Sorry for you. Importantly, next slide. It took 6 seconds to solve this problem. Staggering. These are very powerful technologies, and the power that they have acquired very recently is amazing. A zebra puzzle like this is used to benchmark AI performance generally. In the past, as little as a year ago, the most popular and advanced models would score accuracy of maybe roughly 40% on these zebra puzzles, and now they're up to 95% plus accuracy. Researchers have had to create new, harder puzzles to better differentiate the skills that these AI have. It is incredible.
That was the easiest puzzle we could find. The hardest puzzle is you actually have to read between the facts and know that one of them is a liar that's giving clues about somebody else. And that's where they are today.
Okay. This is not a technical talk about the way that these work. Like Bryan mentioned, this is about helping arm you with the skills and understanding that you need to make the best use of this technology. However, a brief overview of how an LLM is constructed is useful. It begins by acquiring tremendous amounts of data, pulled usually online, but from websites, from blogs, from books, from all kinds of sources, terabytes upon terabytes of information. We hand all of that over to a computer, and the computer starts crunching. What it's doing is estimating millions or billions of parameters that govern the way that the AI will behave. As it goes through that process, it begins learning. First, it begins understanding what words are, and then it begins to understand what words usually come next to each other, all the way to ideas and concepts and context around concepts and conversations until you arrive at the technologies that we have today. You're familiar with these. ChatGPT, Claude, the Anthropic models. These are all things that hopefully you've at least seen in the news. Excuse me. These products are very powerful, and they can help you, they can understand quite a bit. We're not going to talk about any of these products today. And the reason is because this list of popular products is going to look very different in 6 months. It looked very different 6 months ago. This technology is evolving so rapidly and so quickly that if we offered you any advice that was specific to a given platform, it just wouldn't help you. Our goal today is to arm you with information that is evergreen, ubiquitously useful for the LLM and the AI products that you end up eventually using.
Perfect. Great segue. How do we really leverage the models? How do we get the most out of it? The number one thing I hear from people who do not get good responses from their AI is that they really don't understand how to ask the questions correctly. They don't understand how to properly use it. I'm going to give you a real quick rundown of prompting. How to maximize what you're getting out of these models. I like this definition. The art of crafting the perfect instructions to guide language models towards generating desired output. We've all had the response in and the response out wasn't what we were expecting or wasn't what we wanted. Brief history, this is funny, saying the early days of 2018, but models at that point relied heavily on keyword searching. They were very sensitive to the prompt wording that you specifically used, how you asked, the types of question you asked. They needed explicit guidance on what to do and how to do it. They could handle very basic instructions. Our next generation, the middle era, models could handle a chain of thought. It could handle a little bit more nuance. It was a little bit more robust, but that's where prompt templates started to kind of get their popularity. So somebody would learn, hey, if I created this template and I wanted to create an email bot or something, I could use this template over and over again, and I noticed that the models responded well to that. Where are we today? The models can now handle greater nuance. It can handle more complex conversations. They can handle a greater ability to conceptualize prompts in both narrow and broader context. You can ask a more generalized question, and it hones in onto exactly what you're trying to do and what you're trying to do in the context around it to answer the question more specifically. Some models, I like to say, circle the airport a few times and try to give you a whole bunch of information, hoping that one of the dots land on the map, and other ones are ultra specific, and they learn your behavior and the types of questions you're asking, and they become more customized exactly to answer what you need. So, general prompt guidance. Good data, clear documentation, and accurate information is only half the battle. The other piece is prompt design, and optimization is the other half. So let's get into how do we prompt this stuff more accurately. All right, for good responses, identify who the agent is. I see this all the time. People say, hey, I didn't get the professional response I wanted. Audience. Who's the audience the agent is going to be interacting with, or the prompt's going to be pushing stuff back to? What's the output? Be specific. I want a numbered list. I want a JSON object. I want a text. Tone, how do you want it? Is it a casual tone? Is it professional? Is it factual? Specific considerations. These models are smart enough now to understand if you give it an exact time period, use that time period in your analysis. Sourcing, biggest thing that the previous generation models failed at. You'd ask it for a source, it wouldn't find it. Latest generation models, ask it for a source, it gives you the page number, it gives you the paragraph number, and it can even give you excerpts from it. Bad prompt example, review my documents, provide roadwork planning challenges. Not specific enough. You're asking this model to jump through hoops and try to solve stuff. If you spend a few more moments putting something specific, the odds of you getting that nailed on the first try is much higher. Here's our example. You're an executive city planner. You're telling the model who it is. Please review all documents created or modified between 2021 and 2023 for any language that discusses roadwork. Where? Hamilton County. Please create an objective list of roadwork based on prevalence. It's going to do a ranking. Please include a factual executive summary. What am I telling it? Ground it in factual information, outlining all major themes. Please also provide a closing paragraph on suggestions for improvements to roadwork planning based on identified challenges. The audience for this information is a group of city engineers. All of a sudden I provided much more context. I'm giving it a lens. I'm giving it a lens to the world for how it's going to respond. Now it's going to use these personas and the types of people that it knows it's going to interact with to use that specific type of language to create a contour product specifically for them. Tell it what you don't want. Unsure information. You can tell it, if you're unsure, ask follow-up questions. Models have temperature settings. You can say, hey, be more creative or less creative. Context preference. Don't use too much jargon. You get in the technical space, what happens? Lots of technical jargon. Specific. Too specific about certain situations. Some models will hone in and they'll only consider one single use case. Can you help me with this? And it only identifies one group of people that it's trying to solve for. Unsourced information. Please only provide verifiable sources. Many of the models you guys are interacting with today reach out to the internet. We know the internet is full of everything. So what do we want it to do? We want it to concentrate on verifiable sources. Tell it if it is correct. One of the other bigger mistakes I see is these models shoot you information, and when we get the correct answer, what do? We copy it and paste it and we move on, right? We never give the model feedback. It doesn't know if what it provided you is actually helpful or not. Some applications have the thumbs up or the thumbs down. How many people actually do that? Very few, right? If you're working with a chat and you're building an agent or building something over time, you providing it feedback in its memory actually helps it improve what it's providing you and how it's going to provide the next thing. Okay? How many coders are in the room today? So I want everybody to raise your hand if you're a coder. Any language. I don't care if it's Fortran, Cobalt. I don't care if you did something on the original weather system for the United States. Okay? All right, now put the number of fingers in the air for how many programming languages you know and you feel comfortable in. I see some people with double hands. That's good. The other are counting. Good. What is AI now allowing? AI is allowing everybody to go from this to this to this. Why? Because you don't need to go back and learn the very basics of every single language known to man. You just need to know the core concepts of how programming works. You need to know, how does code work? How does error handling work? How do the most basic pieces of it work? And then allow AI to help you with, hey, I need this in Dart. Hey, I need this in Java. Hey, I need this in Python. I'm going to hand this over to Zach, who's going to walk through, again, this AI mindset of how do you build in this new era of tools so that you can be the most efficient with your time and how you're building.
Thank you, Bryan. I hope that you'll humor me for a second. You've seen an example so far that involved work relevant to state government. We will include more examples in forthcoming slides, but for this little adventure, this journey that we're going to go on, I wanted to bring it a little closer to home. Something that hopefully most of you have as much or less experience in as I do. I am a hobby audiophile. I enjoy music and music technology and recording technology immensely. One of the things that I've been interested in for the longest time is building an audio visualizer. Something that bounces and beeps and does whatever to the music. I don't know. It's cool. It's like watching fire. This is not a talk about audio visualizers, so it is okay if this doesn't quite resonate with you. What I hope is that as we walk through this process to understand the building mindset, that you will find your interest or your work parallel to this example. So hopefully that's clear. But still, the challenges that I faced in designing something like this are threefold. One, I don't even really know what I want. That is a ubiquitous problem, I am certain, in all of our jobs and all of our personal interests. At some level, if someone gave you $1 million and said, what are you going to do with it? You're going to be like, I don't know. I could probably portion off the first like $2,000. But then after that, what do I want? That's a non-trivial component to understanding how AI functions best. Second thing is limited experience. And because of that, I don't even know what questions to ask. I don't even know where to start. I don't know how these things work. I mean, I can kind of guess that it's got something to do with the music. But beyond that, I lack the information, and I'm not even sure what I don't know. Fundamental point number 2. And then similarly, limited coding knowledge. I have some experience coding, but most of it is more relevant to my day job as a data scientist. I don't know what to expect for coding in a problem like this. So I'm lacking tools, I'm lacking an objective, and I'm lacking understanding about what I'm lacking. Sounds like a lot of lacking. Before we jump into the mindset, I want to tell you what not to do. I want to drive home a point that Bryan made, which is you do not approach your AI and ask it to just do it. Make a program that visualizes my music audio. And that's it. AI will not make decisions for you. You cannot shortcut the hard part. AI is here to help you and accelerate you and do a lot for you. But you have to understand that if you think that you can just chuck data into an AI and have it kick out all your answers and all your decisions, you will be disappointed. If you kick this out, if you did this, it would produce something that looks reasonable. And then you'd scroll all the way to the bottom, and you'd see that it said, this uses simulated frequency data. That isn't what I want. That's not what I wanted at all. I wanted it to be on my music, but I didn't tell it that information. There's all kinds of things that are wrong with this prompt. What are they? One, too large of a task in a single prompt. These AI tools function best when they're given narrow, well-defined tasks to accomplish. Second thing, very little context. I didn't give it a use case, so it had to make assumptions about that use case. And AI assumptions are bad. You want to give it the assumptions, give it the premise, give it the context. Similarly, because I didn't give it any context, I have no trust in the output. A challenge that you will face when you use AI to help augment some part of your job is someone's going to ask you after they receive your report, did AI make this? And you're going to be honest, and you're going to say, yes, this part or that part. And they're going to ask you, how reliable is it? And if you did not do this part correctly, you will not have a satisfying answer. That's significant. The last thing is there was nothing gained. I asked the AI to do it all for me, and it didn't work. But even if it did, what was the point? Now I have this program that I didn't write, that I don't understand, that may or may not do what I want. I didn't have to think, I didn't have to make any decisions, it just did something for me. I may as well have paid someone to write nothing. I may have scraped it from the internet for all that matters. The part of the AI process that makes the biggest difference is you. Your growth and learning is the part of AI that's the best, in my opinion. It is the thing that will turn it from a big, scary thing to something that will help you. So, this is the take-home message. Before we even talk about any of the details and continue on, is to recognize that it is your effort that makes the difference. It is your brain, your decision-making capabilities. AI augments them and enhances them. Whew. All right, let's walk through this example. Let's do this the right way. To begin, I want to give the AI some context of what it should behave like. This is very much in line with what Bryan mentioned. Give it a lens, a persona to mimic. I'm going to ask it, write an AI system prompt for an audio engineer experience that creates simple visualizers. I don't know what an audio engineer should pretend to be. But I know I want it to pretend to be an audio, so I'm going to ask it to pretend to be an audio engineer. How would you describe it? It's like, oh, okay, you are an experienced audio engineer. Here are some key expertises. Here are some approaches that you should follow when you're interacting with the user. Give the AI a role. That's fundamental. Next step is developing some understanding. I don't know very much about audio visualizers. You don't know very much about whatever it is that you are interested in using AI for. So ask it. Talk to it. Go back and forth. Help me understand what an audio visualizer is. Oh, this is really helpful information. This is what the basic process looks like. First it takes some input, then it does some analysis, and then it makes a display. And here's some common varieties. Oh, okay. This starts to trend towards, what do I want? Between all these options, I think, a spectrum analyzer or whatever it is. That's the thing that I'm interested in making. Okay, now I have some language to talk about what I'm interested in. Okay, so I'm interested in making a basic spectrum analyzer. Tell me more about how they work. I'm starting to go back and forth with the AI, asking questions, receiving answers, learning, and growing. In this case, it provides some technical details. I continue with this process, and I say, okay, now I'm finally ready to start exploring what I actually want. Give me some code. Excuse me. Give me some information about how to interact with the data structures that I learned about in the previous prompt. And so now it starts to provide a little bit of code, gives me a few platform-specific tips. These are all helpful information, not for it, but for me. I am doing the developing, and the AI is helping fill in the gaps, helping to make bridges. Continuing with this, let's say that I think, well, it would be really nice if I could modify this so that it was lightweight. And so I tell the AI what considerations need to go into making it lightweight. And again, it provides some technical details that I could, if I didn't understand, ask more questions about. Okay, and finally, how do I make the visuals themselves? We're getting closer and closer to the final deliverable. But all of this preparatory stuff is important because it's for you so that you can understand and explain and develop and iterate. Significant. Okay, finally, I have an objective, I have understanding, and I'm ready to start the technical process. I want to create an audio visualizer using a simple audio buffer reading library and a visual in Pygame, and I give it some information about what my preferences are. And it kicks out code. Now, importantly, I asked it to provide an outline, because I want to be a part of the code building process. Even if I don't know how to code, I can ask it to provide me pieces and insert things step by step. Iteration is the name of the game here. And I continue with this process. What is this thing that you referenced in the comment? Can I make this modification? Oh, I ran it and I received this error. What is that? I go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until finally I arrive at something workable. This is not a talk about audio visualizers. This is a talk about using AI. For me, this represents going from point A to point B, not knowing what I want, not knowing how to do it, and not knowing how to start, to a deliverable. It might not be glorious in my example. It might be glorious in yours. Who knows? We're all here for glory. Audio visualizers aside, the most powerful thing you can do with AI is augment your efforts to help you do your job, not to do your job for you. And that's what we really want to emphasize, is that AI is here to make a difference. So we'll hand it back to Bryan to talk a little bit more about how this applies more directly to state government work.
Perfect. Full stop on that. Everything he just walked through on how to build is what we've learned over the last 2 years, working with early models, most prevalent models. If you save anything from today, that mindset of how to build is one of the most critical pieces. Okay, how do we harness these models to do more complex tasks? Government tasks, as we're all aware, has a lot of for loops, conditionals, all sorts of different things that we somehow have to try to account for. The agentic era. How many people have heard of it? The agentic era? Yep, if you haven't, that'll be just as prevalent as AI. Everybody will hear that. That'll be in every single thing. AI agents more than just the LLM. Why is it important? Because essentially it's your models, and we're wrapping everything around the models to be able to handle more tasks. So what are the ingredients of an agent? Think of this bubble here as our agent. We put a model in it. The most important piece, these agents can be any model. So depending on the platform you're using, it could be Mistral, Llama, ChatGPT, Gemini, Granite, your choice based on the task you need to do. Every model has a different cost and price point. Some of them are super fast, some of them are super slow, some of them do a lot of work, some of them cost a lot of money. One piece, you pick the model. Second piece, system prompts, command prompts. That's where you provide the instructions. What do you want this agent to do? What are the action groups that it can be part of? What is the persona that it has when it answers questions? And what are the inputs and outputs? Think of your agents here as your summer interns, right? They don't know what they don't know yet, but you're giving them the basic information and the basic instructions that you want them to follow to handle very narrow, specific tasks. The more narrow you make those tasks, the more repeatable they are, the better the results you have over time, the higher quality you can yield by giving very specific instructions that you want this individual agent to handle and perform. How do we control them? We wrap guardrails and governance around them. Every single agent becomes individually controlled. Filters for PII, filters for governance rules, what it's allowed to touch, what it's allowed to see, is it allowed to see the internet. Governance wraps around every single agent in the agentic era. Most importantly, you are the builder. These don't build themselves. Agents have effectively become task bots able to handle narrow actions. So think of agents, interns, right? They're not your seasoned professional able to handle everything in the entire world, at least not yet today. They're very good at handling narrow tasks as you train them to do those tasks. Knowledge bases, we're going to talk a little bit about that. That's the source of truth. That's how you ground these models. So not only they're answering questions in context in the responses that you want, but also have the information from your organization to answer the questions using your own data. So system prompts, knowledge bases, custom code enables these to answer domain-specific questions and human-level results. AI agents, you're going to see them everywhere. Every single platform now is having an agentic set of group. It's going to be a huge major industry focus. You're going to see those expand rapidly. But more importantly, conceptualization, agents, they're just building blocks. You can build multiple agents together to handle more complex tasks. They're Legos. These are the things that you train to do those individualized tasks, to handle things that you want them to do in narrowly focused areas. Most importantly, these get built upon your organization's knowledge bases. This is tricky. So I'm not going to say this is easy. Some of these models, very inexpensive to run. Some of these knowledge bases, very expensive to run. So getting this combination of right and how you do stuff, there's a lot of pros and cons. There's a lot of things that you need to consider when you're building your agents and your overall structures. What are the real capabilities? Conversations. We've all interacted those with chats. Task automation, we've talked about that. API integration. These agents, if you give them permission, can reach out and touch with APIs and integrate with them. They're phenomenal document analysis. You can tokenize the initial document, send it through, and have it do a chat-based response back. Knowledge-based utilization. It can reach out and touch knowledge bases. Orchestration for more complex workflows. You can literally train an agent to be a supervisor. We'll give an example of that. Model agnostic. This is key. So as the newest model comes out, you're not retiring these agents. You're plugging them into the newest capabilities. That's where you get the reusability. Memory. This is new. Platforms have been just recently releasing, saying, hey, you can now chat and we remember what your previous chats were. Many of the platforms have that. That allows for you to give the feedback I mentioned earlier to improve it over time. Action groups. You can control agents. What types of things they're allowed to do, what types of things they're not allowed to do. Function calling. You can write fully customized code and have an agent interact with it. So say you reach a limit and you say, hey, I can't get an agent to do this specific thing, a model can't do this, it needs to upgrade this really complicated system and I need it a certain way. You write the script and it calls it and does it. Multi-step reasoning. This is what we've all probably experienced in the last 6 months, where all of a sudden it can handle more complex tasks. If you do any of the deep research, anything, you notice how it actually iterates through. You'll see in the prompt, it'll come back and say, hey, I'm thinking about this. I'm trying to figure out this. I'm trying to do this. Individually controlled security rules at the agent level. And then everything is fully customizable. I think this is one of the biggest things that the tech group is really pushing, which we've seen in the past, is a lot of AI has been narrowly focused on narrow tasks. Everything's being built today is the only limitation is your imagination and how much time you're going to spend to customize it. Good. Let's walk through a quick example of building an agent. Okay, this is a prompt. You're an official communications agent for the state of Indiana. Please provide accurate, helpful information about state services, policies, and resources in a friendly, professional tone. Maintain political neutrality when representing official state positions. I'm giving it what it's allowed to create: press releases, social media posts, website content, public service announcements, frequently asked questions, newsletters, email communications. Always prioritize accuracy. Direct use of in.gov resources when applicable, and communicate in clear, accessible language that represents Indiana's commitment to serving all Hoosiers. This is just an example. This is not the in.gov chatbot, but this is an example. So, can you help me write a social media post for a day today? Simple example. So now all of a sudden it has the context that it needs to do to handle that task that I have it. This agent becomes saved off. It now knows how to do these types of tasks in that type of a manner. Well, what are the real elements that we talk about that goes into this? We have the model settings. That's what type of model we're running. We have the inputs and outputs. What's it getting in? It's getting text in, right? I could feed it a JSON object. I could feed it a whole sorts of different arrays if I needed to. Guardrails and governance. What it's allowed to touch, what it's allowed to see. And then the system prompt that we just showed. The next thing is, when you create these individualized agents that can handle narrow tasks, how do you handle much bigger, more complex issues? How do you connect all of these pieces together to solve a giant web of different possibilities? That's what we're going to get into a little bit with flows.
Like Bryan mentioned earlier, you can think of agents a little bit like building blocks. Each agent is defined on a narrow, specific task. A flow, an AI flow, is the terminology that's being used to describe linking multiple agents together to perform some much more complicated task. This is an example of a workflow that looks rather complicated, has lots of moving parts. Your flows may be more or less complicated than this. There's a lot of functionalities of flows, and we want to keep this kind of high level. We've hit you with a decent amount of technical detail. Gee, excuse me. AI flows are primarily defined by chaining together model interactions. Again, narrowly defined scope for each component, and then you architect out some way to link them together. They're able to handle conditional logic, looped logic. That means that you're not limited to just this to this to this to this to this. You're allowed to have different things happen based on different conditions, which is really helpful. Flows and agents as well are able to process different types of I/O. So it doesn't have to just be text. It can be images. It can be triggers based on web activity. It can be all kinds of data or information that you might want to use as input or as kickoff conditions. Reusable components is a big one. You will spend a lot of time fine-tuning specific agents. And part of the reason that that is worth the effort is because they can be reused. Multiple flows, even within the same flow at different steps of the process. Whatever it is that you're architecting, having reusable components is really helpful. All of this is underpinned by the fact that you can integrate them with agents. Many agents together form a flow. A flow can then feed into an agent. They're in some ways interchangeable, in some ways they're nested. It's a very powerful technology that ultimately is for you to architect and design and think about what do you want it to do? There's that tricky question again. As an example, expanding on the writing agent that Bryan developed, perhaps you have an overarching agent called the AI writing director. And based on what you tell the AI writing director, it may kick off various things. So for example, let's say that a new project comes in. Okay, so you tell the AI writing director what new project details you have, and let's say that it says, oh, okay, this looks like a new project, so here's what we need. The director is going to instruct the communications agent, which specializes in writing emails and press release information. It's going to spin out emails that get sent off to the right people, to leadership as executive summaries, more detailed things to your project managers, and at the same time, perhaps, the director will kick off the project planning agent to start coming up with proposed meeting schedules, and it will wrap those up into emails and send those out as well. If there's any technical information that needs to be conveyed, it can be sent to the AI research assistant, and all of that output gets spun together and turned into something that's convenient. It's there not because the AI says, oh, this is the right way to do things, but because you decided that it was the right way to do things. That's the power of flows. They're difficult to describe without specific examples because they're so customizable. So as these tools become more and more available, experiment with them. Dream up if your workflows could be expressed as an AI flow. What makes a good flow is what makes a good agent, is what makes a good LLM. We've harped on these points today, and we'll say them one more time. Quality instructions, quality data, narrow focus for each individual component, and you coming to the table having decided what you want it to do in very specific, excessive detail even. There's all kinds of structures that we'd love to talk some more about with flows, multi-agent flows, committees. These are really interesting applications. If you want to talk to us later about how something like that could be beneficial, we're happy to do it. Importantly, and we've said this again, you are the builder. You are the one who makes all the difference in this process. AI will not make the hard decisions for you. So we'll hand this back to Bryan to bring us home.
Good. We're going to wrap in the next few minutes. Recognize tool gives you new building blocks, right? We've hit that enough times. The AI cycle, these things are going to get smarter, more capable, smarter, more capable. How can you enhance your work and how are you going to use them? Each one of you guys need to think about that. Final tips and takeaways. AI is here and it's finally delivering the goods we all expect. We still need to overcome fear and anxiety in our workforce. AI offers a tremendous opportunity, so dive in. You're not behind. Really, everything's just kind of starting. AI enablement fosters creativity in you and your team. This essentially removes the roof on the ideas that you think you can create and allows you to create anything. Building with AI is a team effort. Pick a partner and build together. One of our biggest takeaways we've learned is grab a conference room when you're building something and pull in one of your coworkers and build together. They're going to come up with ideas and creative solutions that you didn't come up with. Focus on adopting AI on narrow cases first with clear inputs and outputs. These will become the building blocks of future flows. I've seen so many people go out and try to build something too big. Start super small. You're going to Lego all these pieces together in the end. AI is not replacing all humans, but it will be creating new opportunities and opening new doors. And that's it. I think we have about 2 minutes for questions, if there's any questions. Sure. What's the easiest way, Jeff? We'll let Jeff pick. I couldn't tell who was first.
I'll try to get back to you. If you want to shout it out, though, go ahead. I'm just yeah, go ahead.
So I'm just wondering if there's a way to be responsible with using AI so that we can keep mindful of energy and water needs that these sorts of systems are putting onto our systems. So.
Yeah, so I'm not the person to answer that question. I'm not. I mean, AI is going to use an enormous amount of energy, not in just human capacity in the future, but it's also going to bring enormous efficiency to stuff too. So, but excellent question. I don't have an answer for that.
I can add something as well. The amount of energy that you use is the main driver of cost. So it's funny that it aligns, right? As you experiment with AI tools in just saving your own wallet, you will also be mindful of those types of considerations. It's an active area of development. Models are very powerful, and now we're seeing branching of development where some are trying to get the same performance for less energy cost while others are continuing towards performance. So it's an area of development to keep an eye on.
One more question, I think, and then we'll let everybody go.
If we want...
I'd say that's a great use case. I am the biggest pusher of AI. I probably talk with my team about it all the time. They probably hate it. MPH has been working with IoT on a lot of that to figure out what does it look like within state government. They're trying to be very responsible. Again, we're not a tech company, so we can't just go out and build a whole bunch of stuff and then fail. And then, so I'd say let's follow up afterwards. It's a great question. IoT is working on that. I know there's plenty of individuals in this room that are trying to figure out those plans today. Good. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us this morning. If you have any additional questions. One more. Oh, one more? Okay.
Yeah, more of what sort of considerations or thought have been kind of put into sort of safeguards and things like that concerning, for like the coding example, you talk about asking the right questions and all that stuff. A lot of that with coding, the easy questions versus the hard questions, easy task versus a hard task, you don't know until you know. You have to actually learn all that stuff to even be able to ask those sorts of questions. And if you have the program doing the stuff for you, how do you know? How do you know? There's already problems with people, copying and pasting code. They get off of like Stack Overflow. They don't know how it works. They just told that it works. And this is becoming a very real problem with junior developers. I've talked with people in academia, in industry, and government, and they fundamentally don't know how to debug code because stuff did it for them. They just know, I'll take block A, put it here, like Legos, and ta-da, it worked, but I don't know how it worked. So, I mean, there are uses, I think, for the AI. It's just how do we actually guard against that?
So I'll answer that. If you noticed earlier, I said how many people are coders. I didn't say everyone's going to become a coder overnight. The principles that you learn in coding, this is the tool you wish you had on day one. When you first learn how to code and you're mashing your fingers on a keyboard trying to figure out how to build stuff, this is the tool you wanted to help build with you. So is it going to change coding and replace every single coder? No. But is it going to open capabilities for people to build simple stuff? Is the interim, you still need very, smart, intelligent people to review code and understand and debug and do all of that? Absolutely. Are we marching towards an era where you won't need as much? Yes. So with that, I know we're 2 minutes over. I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. If you have any additional questions, Zach and I will be around. Appreciate everybody taking the time, and thank you.